Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you to Neighbor Power. This workshop is Neighborhood Mobilization through Equitable Economic Opportunities. Your presenter, I'm your host, Mary Ann Scott, and your presenter this morning is going to be Miss Ashley Gerbitz. She is the CEO and the Executive Director of the Alliance for Northeast Unification. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Ashley.
Well, thank you so much, Marianne, and good morning to you all. It's Saturday in the morning. There are probably a lot of other things we can do, especially with the beautiful sunshine outside. So I'm very thrilled that you are here to end this morning with me. As Marianne mentioned, I'm very thankful to be joining you here from the Alliance for Northeast Unification. One name you're probably hearing more publicly is that due to our collective efforts of trying to make a difference here within Northeast Indianapolis. But this is actually powered through the United Northeast Community Development Corporation. So I am just going to give it a couple more moments for everyone to kind of get settled in after making the transition from presentation to presentation here. And Marianne, would you like to just give a little bit of background first of some of the general chat things? So if they have questions or whatnot, and to look for different cues before we get going?
Sure, thanks. You have up on your right hand corner, there is the general chat. And if you want to put something in the chat, I'll be monitoring that. Also Q&A, that feature is you can enter a question and then other people can see that question. So if you want that specific question answered, it's the same one you have, then you can vote for that question. So if you click on 1 vote, 2 vote, 3 vote, we'll know that that's an important question that you want to have answered. And also, if you would like to raise your hand, I can, and you want to get acknowledged, we can bring you up on stage to ask your question because this is not like a normal Zoom meeting where we see everyone. So just let us know, and if it's too long to put in a chat, then we can bring you up on stage.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again, Marianne, for that. All right, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is make sure we are utilizing as much time as possible to learn about ways of economic opportunities that are built into integrating the needs, the loves, the priorities of the neighborhood with various equitable practices so that everyone can win and everyone can thrive within your neighborhood. Right now, share itself, which of presentation of PowerPoint. So I just want to make sure I can load this. We have no problems getting started. My screen okay with the presentation. All right, so here's where we're at. Again, our work is regarding neighborhood mobilization through the economic opportunities. A little background information to get started. Within our office, and a personal thing that means the world, whatever we are doing, all of our work definitely needs mobilized off of the element of trust. So a saying that's there is all progress moves at the speed of trust. If, for instance, there's not the appropriate community building, understanding when assets of a community may or not have been there, it's been the residents that have always done their best to keep things alive. So please, please, please keep this motto alive as we do walk through some of the other steps. So again, all progress, again, moves at the speed of trust. A little bit of background information and something for me to keep in mind. And then sharing too a little bit of information regarding the Alliance for Northeast Unification. You'll see through the presentation as well some very important songs to me. You'll find out a little bit more than my love of community is being a little hip hop head and love of anything music wise that can move us. So a little bit more about me. I am a resident on our city's northeast side. I absolutely love the fact that life has been rooted of knowing I was adopted, east side Indianapolis, early self, east side Indy. But then there was also a time where my life was based within Noblesville, Indiana. And I'm like, oh, there's certain like things and amenities, which that's a normal standard. So having different aspects of environmental differences, even racial identity issue, like not issues, but embracing our gifts is everything to me. And so keeping also to why equity is everything, because we may be different does not mean that it should be seen as a splintering thing, but more of us embracing our uniqueness and that great gift, no matter what we can bring to the different tables. So you're probably wondering, how does that adapt the work within Northeast Indianapolis and our focus within the United Northeast CDC? Well, one thing is the organization itself was founded in 1995 by the residents. Thinking of the timeline of 95 and understanding the kind of mass exodus of opportunities when you saw many of the manufacturing organizations that were here in this northeast suburb not be available. The area itself was ridden of more of the conditional things we were seeing with upticks, afflictions of not having jobs. You would have more of the senseless violence or other detrimental things such as drug use, just the other enabling things of what we would hear broken window theory. So sharing that, our organization today is built around people, places, and progress, and doing everything we can to help improve the quality of life. So through our work of being a convener around the local area quality of life plan, which is the Northeast Corridor Quality of Life, we are really fortunate through collective efforts with LIST, the Local Initiative Support Corporation, to give back. So throughout the presentation, you'll hear me talk a little bit more about how we can make a difference by bringing the collective work we know we're doing to see the community move in one positive direction together, us amplifying economic mobility through the right partnerships, which could be either a business, working with governmental stakeholders, and so forth. So there's many ways that we can continue to give back. I do also want to share that I will periodically try to flip back to my screen to check for questions. Because right now, in my view, I can't see the chat. So I'll be checking in periodically for that. Or actually, Marianne, I may just reach out to you, see if you could read questions in the chat while I'm in this presentation mode. So with that in mind, overview, purpose for us in the case of building these equitable economic opportunities will also be rooted with a fundamental element, and that is quality of life and development. It's very important as we talk things about definitions and terminologies that we understand the importance of quality of life and development. Specifically here within Northeast, we know that there are a lot of individuals that often are not seen, not heard, maybe overshadowed, maybe inequitably, just due to the fact of they're working deep down in the roots, block by block here within our area. So the best way to break divisions, bust the silos, bust bubbles of making sure we have a shared understanding, a shared commitment, and a shared pathway with direction. Our area has been cultivating our community convenings through the quality of life plan. That includes elements such as health and wellness, jobs, opportunity, business mobility, youth engagement, crime, safety. So the first thing I want to make sure you know while looking into how you mobilize and bring everybody together is encouraging you wherever you are doing your outreach. Find out through organizations like LISC, Indianapolis LISC, and on their page, you can find, for instance, each quality of life plan based off the area. Now, that doesn't mean it's the only one, for instance, but it is a good starting reference point so you can understand what's already on place and is describing the quality of life for your area. Another example of it, which may not be listed within there, is to touch bases with your local neighborhood association, organizations, civic leagues. For instance, making sure we value the individual imprints of neighborhoods. Find out, are there more neighborhood-based ones like the Martindale Brightwood community through One Voice, their MB7 work, and catering your plan to that, which then gets into the next of what is that plan, and it's that development itself. That development is going to include more of the accumulation of like land use drafts. So what is on file, we'll say, with the Metropolitan Development Division within the city of Indianapolis, that's DMD. Finding that out, also making an extra plug with our Indianapolis Neighborhood Resource Center, where all of these components is there an insight within the area. Going into the next, starting addressing the systematic issues and concerns is understanding, yes, we have to talk about racism. Yes, we need to talk about other ism, sexism, looking into gender discrimination, ADA disabilities, racial conflicts, even divisions between faith, and anything that pulls people apart. Please understand that the learned behaviors have to be based off of some type of system. And structurally, when we look at some of our institutions and the intended consequences of how certain rules and policies have been written may completely keep good efforts from being delivered to certain populations. So yeah, we have to talk about racism because rooted in our neighborhoods are practices like redlining, housing practices. So at one time, say for instance, like my granddaddy, he was a honored, decorated veteran, 30 years in, and just imagine coming home where you've served one battlefront and coming back to another battlefront and knowing some of your colleagues are benefiting from using their GI Bill to get their first homes, and you don't have that ability. That's an example of racism today. I mean, from the past, and now even today, things we're still fighting for. A great example is making a plug to the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus and their efforts to align certain themes for school to prison pipeline, food access work, economic mobility, you name it, they're doing that. But it's all based into, again, addressing these systematic racism or other elements which are keeping individuals not connected or disassociated of making progress. Again, all progress moves at the speed of trust. We got to address the systems to make sure nobody's left behind.
Ashley?
Yes.
We've got 3 questions. I wanted to go ahead and do that before you go to the next slide. The first one said,
perfect.
What is the lists, in quote, LISTS, that you were referring to that shows area plans?
Oh, LISC. So LISC, again, is the Local Initiative Support Corporation, LISC.org. And actually, not to put Emily Scott on the spot, but I do. Would it be okay, Emily, if you maybe you'd share a little bit more about LISC before we move forward? If you're willing to jump on the stage and share a little bit more background information on that.
She said sure, so hang on, let me do that, and then I will bring her up.
Perfect. Thank you. And we're going to make this as participative as possible.
Okay, she should be popping on. There she is.
Hey everyone. I was not planning to be on camera this morning, but glad to chat with you guys. And I will give a shout out to my colleague Shelby Cummings, who's also with LISC, who's participating on the call this morning. But so just quickly, LISC is the Local Initiative Support Corporation, and we're a national community development organization. And so we've worked in Indianapolis for a little over 25 years and work with a lot of nonprofits and community development corporations on place-based strategies around housing, education, commercial corridor revitalization. And so over the years, we've worked with a number of different neighborhoods to help them in their creation of a quality of life plan, like Ashley mentioned. And so while individual neighborhoods house a lot of those quality of life plans on their own websites, we kind of have a little bit of a repository that we've built up on our site too, and you can kind of see where some of those exist and the link that I dropped into the chat. So we do a number of different kind of programs related to small business support and support affordable housing and sort of place-based initiatives around crime reduction or infrastructure in support of neighborhood priorities. So our goal is really to help connect resources, social capital, lending capital, grant programs, technical assistance to community-based organizations, primarily community development corporations and their network of quality of life partners. So that's just a really high level. Would definitely encourage you to take a look at our site, and I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about LISC quickly.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And also, hello, Shelby. I want to just, again, take a moment to make the plug. It's great. I can share a little bit about LISC, but that's also one of the key elements. Partnerships are everything. So taking time to provide any spotlights of partners out there doing the work, we can just bring them right on board. So again, thank you, Emily, for that on the spot moment, but you were able to beautifully describe the work you and your team are doing every day to make sure we're planning and coordinating our growth together. So again, thank you for that.
Another question was, is there a handout? If not, is a copy of the PowerPoint available?
A copy of the PowerPoint will be available, yes. I will make sure a packet, including the presentation, other handouts regarding references are all sent over. So that delivery will be done. post a presentation today. So great question.
And a question in the chat. Youth organizations in the neighborhood, like little leagues and schools that serve the areas, how do you reach parents and residents who have to work 2 jobs and are too tired to attend meetings?
Great question. I want to say up front, foremost, you'll learn a little bit more in the presentation about the importance of the collective impact we do together. Now, granted, our role when it talks about quality of life is to be able to understand this. It's kind of like a chessboard. To make sure we're making the right equitable moves together, you got to understand the players, the ones who have found their gift, their specialized lane. In the case of this question of youth engagement, it's our responsibility to figure out how we can help bring partners to the table to help organizations with youth base accommodate those needs. We understand the work-life balance, but still the care for your community doesn't go away, right? So, for example, in our area, there's an organization like Straight Up Mentoring, another organization, MLT Mentoring and Outreach, another LNO, which is short for Like No Other. They've accommodated spaces which is built to cater growth and empowerment, activities of knowing leadership, also knowing your neighborhood as well. And so what we've been trying to do, and I would love to make sure if you can, drop contact information to me personally or in the more, so we can get a better idea of how we can shape more supports for those moms. But in the case, what we've been trying to do with that example is provide adequate childcare or dinner reliefs when we're meeting, to be able to see a part of you doesn't have to be left behind, but seeing we are not doing also our activities during the quote unquote banker hours while everybody's working, but catering things so everyone's there. Thank you again for that. Marianne, was that okay?
Yes,
any
it
other
was.
questions?
I don't see anything.
Okay, perfect. Now you're probably wondering on the screen, this phrase and saying of a whole new world, tying into next slides before we actually get into the depths of these equitable economic opportunities. I want to stop here and talk about the importance of us reimagining what our communities can look like. Yes, that indicate many of the negative barriers. Our work is housed within 3 zip codes, 46218, 46226, 46205. A basic understanding, we'll say from a business lens, is let's just do a market analysis and find out number of rooftops, number of vacant properties, what are the crime stats, how are my insurance rates? If we were to invest in this area, how are we going to be impacted? Before we can get going, and like for a community, going back to that quality of life plan, we got to make sure we are reimagining us centered around keeping the residents first. I will highlight that, keeping the residents first, and utilizing, because they're the everyday pulse of this community. They've been very much connected on waking up each day, still inspiring hope when there's been a lack of resources within your block. So saying that, we want to make sure, while reimagining a whole new world block by block, that we're putting action behind it, so that when maybe a market analysis is going on, or developers maybe looking to bring a business, for instance, to the area, y'all are ready and activated to bring together these key players and have movement match work being done together and not being done to. One thing I often say is that we want to have progress done with us, and that us in this case is residents, your builders, everyone together, and not being done to us. So don't come later on and talk about you're needing a letter of support on a program or a project to build maybe a new multifamily unit, but you haven't even dared to talk to the community yet. Don't do things to us, do it with us. So engage early on, but it can all be done if we right now start reimagining what, again, we would like to see our communities have. Just keeping it real, and understanding that, again, with my love of hip hop, I'm going to throw this out. There ain't no half-stepping. We, again, can't take, anything more that's not rooted in being clear, concise, and transparent on what you want to bring. As developers or anyone seeking to invest in the community, you can't just, again, say, hey, for me to get this rezoning or public hearing approved, or at a public hearing, get some, ordinance approved, and you say it there, but then you don't deliver later. I call that a half step. Don't do that. It is so important. If you engage in a partnership, do everything you can to retain that partnership, learn and grow together. It has to be done through that lens of equity, not just saying you're going to give me an equal part, but being able to understand the dynamics of an area where there has to be some great acknowledgement of, again, those systematic barriers, which has made this unlevel playing ground within certain areas. Meet and partner where everyone's at, and then make your progress point of ideas, plans to go from there. A great example, just to start from an economic development lens here, is seeing on the screen. This is groundbreaking. Apologize, it looks like the image is fuzzy on my side, but this is of the groundbreaking of First Merchants Bank at the corner of 38th and Meadows Drive. 38th and Meadows Drive actually breaking their last bank within, I want to say, a 3-mile radius close in 2017. Now, again, from that equity lens, it's great to say, hey, bank, come into a neighborhood, build it, and people will come. That's not going to work. No one's going to mutually benefit of, one, being able to have accounts be open, because, again, we got to recognize there are some business things that have to be in place, number of transactions, so forth, to keep their doors open. But then on the other hand, where equity comes into play, we have to acknowledge the absence of institutions and what it's done to community. So in this case, for economic opportunities, our organization, through Unique, was able to see through this alliance, convene meetings for First Merchants to learn where to meet the neighbors. They were able to hear through this about the pains of what troubles the residents went through when the Chase Bank over in Meadows Drive closed. The reliance of payday locations with these high transaction fees, cashing checks at a liquor store, the predatory loans that happen, the lack of the strengths of a financial education entity being able to provide financial literacy and education. Those are the certain things to keep in mind. But we were really happy to know that if engaged early, the bank was able to see that of equity lending practices be met, because they were now able to have a plan match the needs of the community. We're now able to have a good starting point of building together. And again, it's not stopping there. There's even a plan now in place for First Merchants to continue engagement and growth into leveling, being a good neighbor in certain areas. So again, that's just one example. Now this isn't my hip hop head stage, but I'm also a millennial, and probably like a few others that are on here grew up with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But I was a fan of the Red Power Ranger, and this quote stuck to me, and it is, "Isn't the smallest chance of victory enough of a reason for us to keep fighting?" I shared this because we are now at a point in time, we have to start fighting the good fight. We have to stop running away from anything keeping us from having the true conversations, addressing maybe misperceptions, misunderstandings, so that we are, again, are not assuming that we're speaking on behalf of somebody. Verify if you are or not. So I shared this because I don't care if it means making progress of economic opportunities, is having those heart-to-hearts. Let's fight. A great example of our neighborhood mobilization is the fact of on East 38th Street between Sherman Avenue and we'll say Emerson. There is one of the most horrible stretches of roads. Now, economically, opportunities will be coming due to the Indigo Purple line that's proposed. By the way, short plug, with legislation, Senate Bill 141, we might not have that dedicated funds that have been raised. If, for instance, that bill passes, contact your state legislators, say no to SB 141, so that we're able to get some of these public infrastructure things to our area. But sharing that in mind when it comes to these economic opportunities, East 38th Street, I'm sorry, but I may not want to come into a community if I'm seeing age deteriorated infrastructure. As neighbors, we came together to make sure, first, what are the formal processes of making concerns be heard within the public. Yes, we called MAC. Yes, we called our council persons. Yes, we've engaged our mayor's neighborhood advocate, contacts to DPW, all that. But that wasn't enough. We weren't being heard. So in that case, the smallest chance for a victory was making sure we just didn't stop on what this current systematic issues in play were saying were the case. We're like, all right, we're going to reimagine us being heard, and we incorporated in the use of media. I was really happy to say that little small act had led to us now having doors being closed, now open, because now there's a pending process within DPW, and they're going to come fix the roads. So, all right, let me continue to move forward. Mary Ann, before I go forward, are there any questions in the chat?
No questions, just some comments, but no questions.
Okay. Would you like to read any of those? It's
sure.
Perfectly fine.
Charles Knight, Tony Knight said, UNEC, ANU, Avondale Meadows Shopping Center, YMCA, grocery store, doctor's office, bank, Dollar Tree, but not another fast food. What the neighbors envisioned and the good corporations and good public-private partnerships help to provide.
Great comment, and good lead into something else. So another great example as to that, once We want a sit-down place. Just imagine the smallest chance of having a victory of a family being able to sit at a sit-down restaurant and eat and enjoy a meal together at a business, right? Ding, ding, ding. A local holder of land use was actually looking to recruit in another fast food restaurant. Let me tell you, there is so much beauty in bringing neighbors together. If you drive down East 38th Street near Meadows, you don't see a Burger King today because those neighbors stepped up to Mr. Tony's point and we're like, we want to sit down. You want to bring a sit down that's healthy, fresh, affordable? Awesome. But now we don't need another gas station. So thank you, Tony, for highlighting that. Any other comments?
He just put in Dollar Tree, yes, but no Burger King.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. Perfect. All right, I'm going to continue on here. Now, the reality again, reality is wrong. Dreams are for real. This is the point of if you have the proper quality of life plan in place, again, you want to check it once, check it twice, and realize that it's a living, breathing document. You want to have some type of plan in play to see your dreams become a reality. You can make stuff become real. So I can't stress enough that in our work of bringing opportunities, such as, for instance, a great fostering relationship with First Merchants. It's great. We can convene a meeting and talk about it, but it's another after that meeting's done, what resources can you do to provide? To ensure from that alliance bit, if we had those meetings where we had our neighborhood association presidents. So those are the anchors that know the needs of their neighborhoods, meeting with the executives. There were also too opportunities of learning from the community providers within the area. But lastly, if we're doing the appropriate convening through this alliance, through United Northeast CDC, we don't stop there. The bank was able to get a copy of the quality of life plan that we've again tried to see us revitalize, but also too, don't just hand the report. Can you go back and look upon your notes from those convenings and pull out more associated terms which can help them have a good corporate social responsibility checklist? So that's what we did in the case. And everybody, like, we're off to a good start, to the best manner since we do have COVID in play. But again, we're at least working in the right direction. So Mr. Campbell's Dreams, which is like our area neighborhood association president for the Sheridan Heights area, as he would say, we got our bank that we've been fighting for, but now we got a good way of making sure we can keep it for good this time. On our blocks, this is my point of making sure that in your area, if you live there, you serve there, your job's there, you're looking to recruit more businesses to your community, this is the plug for your asset-based community development. Asset-based community development. Make sure you take the time to learn what are your assets. I cannot stress enough, the people in the community are an asset. Do not forget to take the time to learn and anchor plans around your key asset, and that's the people. So on the blocks, do that of, again, the request of the asset development. If you know what you got, it's going to make it a lot easier to identify what you need. It, again, anchored in knowing the assets of your area, it will make it a lot easier for when identifying the need. Now you know where you can pull in economic opportunities for those that may want to come. And where you're able to, again, see that you're not doing that work alone. You're not, there's no one leader, convener. It's the collective power that you have. So again, another reference point is building off the assets you there. INRC, I can't help express it enough, has a wonderful toolkit that goes through asset-based development. Research that, obtain it, and utilize that while you're in your different modes, reviewing the assets you have. This leads to an example of a current partnership we're doing to see neighbor mobilization around walkability. So in our quality of life plan, we talk a lot about our broken infrastructure, inadequate sidewalks, high pedestrian fatalities, you name it, right? But what that was based off of, again, was first looking at the assets, as Health by Design was able to do walk studies that help them understand areas of opportunity. And now as we are doing various outreach events, bringing in localized voices, putting together now a specific action plan for walkability and pedestrian safety, we now are able to have a more aligned strategic action plan. So again, take the time to know the supports on your blocks. Once you understand your assets, it is so important to also assess the people at the table who you got, who's ready for the fight, the good fight, but also who else you need to bring at the table. Igniting equity is very important to make sure is also done at your planning tables. This picture right here is an example of the Diabetes Impact Project. There is a steering committee meeting that is done monthly around the idea of diabetes impact. Northeast Indianapolis is suffering quite badly around diabetes with the lack of healthy food access, having food deserts, normal hereditary based practices, which are, given from, generation to generation. Us being a 93% community color, we have a high diabetes rate there, right? So this picture is a great example of igniting equity in the space of health equity. From economic opportunities, this is now allowing for bigger conversations, which has made an impact to the small grocer like Wall Street Grocery on East 38th Street, now have a team of support helping them stabilize their business as a small business that's trying to fight a good fight in the food access front.
Ashley, we have a question.
Yes.
The previous slide that you showed, Charles Tony Knight asked, where is the mural that you were showing? Where is that located?
Great question. This is actually there within, let's see, near 30th Keystone. It's in the Blackburn Apartments. So Blackburn Apartments. It's around the curve.
Okay, thank you.
You go, yep, no problem. We found that this actually during a block walk when we were going out, when we could, to go talk to the neighbors and learn more about the area. So I wanted to make sure you all saw some of the beautiful art that was hidden in the neighborhood. So I encourage you all, just get out and explore your neighborhoods. You will find some of the most beautiful things. But back to, the idea about who's at the table. In this case, you'll see it is a mixture of residents that are convening this steering committee. So you got local voices, plus our community health advocate, plus community health organizations and businesses all sitting around talking about making changes for diabetes in the area. And you're probably like, how does this help economic opportunities? Well, I'm glad you may have thought about that question. I can say, again, outside of the examples for helping, again, Michael and Marcus with Wall Street Grocery, the information, knowledge, and content that's created here with their convening. So that's, again, making sure the most refreshed voice of that work is available, is now also able to see bigger conversations occur. So now we got good information and content to talk to other partners. So that could be later on when we're looking at market support and logistics and talking to Winklers. Here's some people also that can help you better understand. All right, now moving on to the aspects here. Once you know you got your planning teams together, don't stop, continue to get it. There's this song, it says, don't stop, get it, get it. Hopefully you guys are excited about that, or I'm just excited because, again, my hip hop mind is kicking in. But where we've been getting progress have been off of a few different areas. As you might know, our area recently has received a massive push in momentum for economic opportunities with Goodwill Industries and Cook coming to our community after a basic step of taking the time of learning and listening, talking to, again, about 25 different organizations. Cook Medical and Goodwill Industries were able to learn about the assets, the opportunities, and where there's a critical need, they can help fill in the gap socially and economically by learning what it is to be a good neighbor. What that has transpired in that case is at first, I'm like, all right, we've been doing all this groundwork, bringing neighbors together, bringing community partners together, talking and fighting about, hey, these are areas of opportunity. Well, when we had the first time sitting at the table and learning about where potentially they could go, no lie, it was talking about the strengths and the actions where neighbors, community partners, and other stakeholders were ready to be put into action. That is what allowed a business decision to be now planted at East 38th Street and Sheridan Avenue. What's coming to that neighborhood is more than 100 jobs. It is now bringing in a average starting wage that's livable at $16 an hour, right? Average. It should be more, but hey, we're gonna take what we get. But average starting wage, we're blessed, $16 an hour. Another concern was, like, do we have enough education attainment opportunities? Well, having a business like Cook, a social enterprise like Goodwill, so they have some social services together, plus some financial, like philanthropic partners, and then the neighborhood voice, we learn education attainments there. Well, through that has now accumulated, let's see, a free education paid up front all the way to a master's to be there. That's pretty great. Now, we've talked about areas of equity of knowing on the minority construction front. How can we mobilize additional support there? Well, we know a $15 million new healthcare facility has to be created. Do we just continue the same progress of keeping the same contractors, or do we leverage new opportunities for Black and Brown partners, which evidence-wise was built through community mobilization works, we'll say with the Forward Cities Initiative, where we're talking about how do we give opportunities for Black and Browns? Well, guess what? That birthed the option for 100% minority participation that will build this facility. I know some skeptics will be like, how are you going to have 100% participation? Well, if you know who the stakeholders are, you create effective pathways of training, development, we can win that way. So I'm sharing that because now it's embarked a new pathway of businesses being able to leverage doors of getting into RFPs, not just with general contracting, in that case it's Harmon, but the subcontractors are winning. But to see subcontractors, which maybe have smaller capacity support win, we didn't stop there. We're now in the process of, while doing recruitment for these 100 jobs, doing recruitment for a pipeline for skilled jobs trades. So that's one example with Goodwill. First merchant.
Ashley, we have a question.
Yes.
The question is, if you cover this, then disregard, but how is Cook working to recruit employees from the neighborhood?
Great question. And you beat me to my next thought. Again, learning the needs of the community. So again, any business, I want to challenge them to learn how it is to be a good neighbor. From their learning of the social and economic impacts. So again, we know that this neighborhood can thrive. I'm ready to get back to this conversations where, for instance, Neighborhood Association President Joyce Randolph, who's a small business owner with Elephant Garden, she's like, I remember when we opened up our first beauty supply. She's like, I know we can get back to that. So sharing that, Cook learned of the barriers. And so in the recruitment, there has been a strategic plan put in place of how we will organically engage the residents within the neighborhood. So have conversations about where there can be a strategic community engagement approach. So in our case, we'll be connecting with the partners that we know are boots on the ground, are the local voices, the trusted messengers, to see us locally see those jobs be, of high preference, employed right here from the neighborhood.
Ashley, we are running close to getting to time.
Yeah, I'm glad. And so I'm going to wrap up by sharing this. Please know with the advocacy efforts, if you, for instance, know we need to have more sit-down restaurants, in the case of what Tony was talking about, please make sure to figure out who are the developer partners within the community. Make sure you share that. So in our case, if you're doing work within Northeast Indy, we would love to know opportunities. So when there's more of the macro level conversations about how we can recruit in businesses, that information is now on the table and we're accountable for hearing it. We need to deliver it in those extra spaces. So keeping that in mind. Understanding the progress, if we know we don't need any more gas stations, liquor stores, different elements of there, because that's contributing to us not getting a good streamlined business of healthy foods to a community, advocate it. A great example is right now, collectively, we've been trying to block a gas station coming in at the corner of 30th and Sherman. Well, it's making momentum. We're educating, learning together. So let's also keep that in mind. I'll just forward in here because I heard the ding for our notice here. But I cannot stress it enough. Like Tupac said, believe in yourself and don't let nobody stop you from doing what you got to do. This goes back to addressing those systematic barriers. Don't allow the red tape and internal process keep you from doing what you know is right. Do what you got to do. Reimagine systems that can, again, deliver the outcomes of new economic opportunities. So in the case, personally, again, I was blessed to know I was able to talk about how amazing our neighborhood is with Cook and Goodwill, but that you got to do what you got to do. If that means, if it can help bring jobs, we got to do whatever we got to do to make sure it's not just your one voice alone that can help our economic opportunities come to your background, but building a pipeline. So I didn't just say, hey, come, and they come. They were able to hear it in multiple arenas. So again, do what you got to do to make some changes.
We got 2 quick questions. Any Cook on-the-job training opportunities? And has the gas station prospective owner come to any neighborhood meetings?
Well, I'm glad you asked. No, they haven't. So action in that case, I'm going to stop sharing screen. We got our 3-minute warning. The owner has not shown up. But guess what? We're still talking as a neighborhood to see a great aggressive way of trying to hold the block down. What that's actually done has transpired new information and research to hold down the block. A great example is be creative on understanding partners you can talk to. In that case, since that business owner didn't show up, guess what? Your actions are still showing. In that, we were able to do a CAD search. So CAD is just a document service of being able to understand all of the activities that occurred. You didn't have to say anything, but the report showed 1,800 police runs that were documented at the owner's other locations, which were contributing negative. That was able to help speak volumes and start a whole other conversation, which may have not been done if we were just to look at the basic rezoning process. So that's very important for us. Again, we're down to 1 minute here. This was so hard within this little hour to talk about all the amazing things we're doing here. Visual snapshot. I want to help say this. This isn't the last time of us connecting. Where ideas are coming to mind, but you're needing light to figure out how you can mobilize economic opportunities by making sure it's centered around neighbors, community partners voicing. You can always feel free to reach me at ashley.gerbitz@anuimpact.org. Our website, y'all, hey, I started in 2020 during COVID, so we're gonna do more upgrades to our website and all, but you can stay connected to us at anuimpact.org. And lastly, I cannot stress enough, please make sure you look to see who, again, is convening in your neighborhood and making a difference. So look forward to staying connected. Have a great day.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks.